Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, and as part of Doctor Who's 60th anniversary celebrations, there's been a lot of exciting things dropping. We've got the 360th anniversary specials, a Christmas special where we're going to meet Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor. We've got the whole Whoniverse expanding, Tales of the TARDIS, the Daleks colorization that was announced a few days ago, but for me, the most unambiguously exciting thing to have come from the anniversary is Doomsday. Now, I'm being slightly hyperbolic here, of course, only slightly. Doomsday, for those of you who don't know, is a transmedia event that's taken place over the course of Doctor Who's 60th anniversary. A couple of years ago, they did something similar with Time Lord Victorious, where the 10th Doctor had this story that would take place between the waters of Mars and the end of time, where he would try and eliminate death from the universe. And Doomsday features comedian Suze Kempner playing Doom, the universe's greatest assassin, and we've been following her journey over 24 hours. Each story takes place across a single hour in Doomsday, where death is literally chasing her, and she's trying to find the Doctor. We've had online chapters, comic books, Doctor Who magazine strips, video game chapters, a novel, BBC audiobooks, and now the penultimate chapter in Doomsday is a 4-part Big Finish full-cast audio drama box set called Doomsday Dying Hours. We've got a quadrilogy of stories here, which take place in the last 4 hours of Doomsday, and because each story is essentially an hour long, it means that this quadrilogy, interestingly, takes place almost in real time. We've got Dawn of an Everlasting Peace by Jacqueline Rayner, we've got A Date with Destiny by Robert Valentine, The Howling Wolves of Zanfir by Simon Clarke, and The Crowd by Lizzie Hopley. We're going to take this in order. Dawn of an Everlasting Peace takes place in 3975, which for those who know their Doctor Who calendars will know is about 25 years before the events of the Daleks' master plan. Apparently writer Jacqueline Rayner is the #1 most unambiguous Daleks master plan stan, especially of the solar system delegates that we meet in Mission to the Unknown. And the story itself takes its title from a line of dialogue from the Daleks' master plan. Mavic Chen says that the solar system was led to peace in 3975 to the year 4000, and the past 25 years have, quote, been the dawn of an everlasting peace. So Doom is assigned a job, is assigned a hit at this peace treaty signing, which leads to her having to infiltrate the facility. Let's play a clip from Dawn of an Everlasting Peace.
Delphon dancers!
Fan, are you? Well, it's just you and me then, mate. No one's going to suspect a respectable lady with her elderly grandfather of being up to no good. So if anyone from the SSS asks, you're my granddad, right?
Granddad?
Yep, you got it.
SSS.
Yep.
SSS. SSS.
That's them.
SSS. Pop.
Okay, she's out of sight. Let's go. Right, coming through. Coming through. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Pass, please.
I'm sorry?
Do you have a pass?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I didn't realise I needed one. I queued up and everything.
Pop.
This is a restricted area.
I want Pop. Pop.
I'm sorry. I didn't realise it. It's my granddad. He's a bit upset. It's so noisy out there. And he's very thirsty. Are we in trouble?
No, but you need to leave the area.
I've never been in trouble before. Please don't arrest me. I'm sorry, Grandad. There's no Pop. There will never be any Pop. No Pop ever again.
No.
Plus, your granddaughter told me she was going to put you in a home.
I want to go home. Want to go home.
Honestly, I'm not the biggest Dalek master plan stan, Jacqueline Rayner is, but I found this to be a really endearing opening chapter. Jacqueline Rayner is a pretty unorthodox writer, at least when it comes to the actual stories that she gets assigned or the stories that she tells, where you get these really strange settings, these really offbeat and off-kilter characters or the scenarios that they're thrown into, and she's somehow able to find tangible emotional cores in the center of them. There's a subplot in Dawn of an Everlasting Peace that resolves in an ending that's genuinely quite heartfelt, but it still manages to be funny, still manages to have quite a few twists and turns in it, and for those who like their Dalek history, their classic series Dalek history specifically, there is so much in Dawn of an Everlasting Peace that you folks are going to be combing over to find the hidden details for. The setting was great. The fact that Doom has an hour to complete her mission and then get out before death catches up with her is a really good conceit. It keeps the pace snappy, it keeps things moving forward, and the cast here are really strong. I'll talk about Suze Kempner later, but standout is Susie Riddle, who plays Lynette. But much like Doom, let's quickly move on to the next story. We've got A Date with Destiny by Robert Valentine, and this, my dear viewer, is the Jackie Tyler story. Yes, this channel, the Mr. Titus channel, is a Camille Kaduri stan channel, and I have absolutely no shame in that. And Doom is sent to early 21st century England. She's trying to find the Doctor. However, the 10th Doctor and Rose have been getting up to some shenanigans. They've managed to bust up some sort of crime syndicate, and because the Doctor and Rose can't be found for punishment, they decided to make an example of Jackie Tyler. So Doom lands near the Powell estate in the early 21st century and tries her best to protect Jackie. However, there's another assassin on their tail, Destiny, played by Yasmin Bannerman.
Nice trick back there. Shouldn't have fallen for that.
It was always a weak spot of yours, wasn't it? Ignoring staff. I almost feel bad for exploiting it, babes.
That's so thoughtful of you, hun. How long's it been, by the way?
Not long enough.
Then you needn't worry. There's a last time for everything! Hi, Doom!
Hi, Des. You're looking amazing, hon.
Not as good as you, sweetness. How have you been?
I've had better days.
Well, maybe your day's over. You're slipping, Doom. And this Tyler woman is mine.
I'm not the one who's slipping, babes.
Hey! These boots are new!
New? They're on fire!
I think out of the 4 stories in Dying Hours, this was just the most fun. Jackie Tyler and Doom are a really fun combination, especially with how Doom tries to gain her trust at the beginning by pretending to be an incarnation of the Doctor and trying to earn Jackie Tyler's trust. It was a really fun opening dynamic. She is quickly rumbled, but then that dynamic shifts to a really fun, like Mean Girls sort of faux gal pals relationship between Doom and Destiny. There's a really funny line towards the end when somebody mentions the word fate and they're like, oh, do you want to bring them into this? So like Doom, Destiny, Fate, these are like the names of some of the assassins in the Lesser Order of Oberon. Brian the Ood gets a name drop and stuff. There's some pretty fun world building here, which is surprising because of just how fast the plot is moving. There's some chases in the streets of London. We get to hear Jackie Tyler being an advocate, a defender of Rose Tyler and the Doctor's relationship on Earth. It's kind of like a spiritual sequel to Love and Monsters, but replace Elton with the universe's greatest assassin. And if that sounds good to you, I think I may have found your new favourite story. But yeah, Yasmin Bannerman's great, Camille Kaduri's great. Great story. And then we get to the third story, which features The Silence. This is The Howling Wolves of Zanfir by Simon Clarke. So you've got this planet Zanfir, where you've got these 2 species engaged in some sort of mutually assured destruction, genocide or war. You've got the Trebleach, who are these wolf-like species that Doom allies herself with, and you've got the Melch, who are the opposing side of the conflict. Doom has been hired to kill a specific member of the Silent race, and winds up joining the Trebleach in order to infiltrate the Silence ranks, and honestly, this was by far the weakest of the box set. This was honestly a pretty laborious listen, partly because the Silence are not very well suited to the format of this box set. Like I said, each story in the box set essentially takes place in real time, but with the Silence you see them and then you lose your memory of the encounter. And there are several scene transitions and skips where they've headed it completely in the wrong direction. They've had entire other scenes take place off screen that they don't remember because they've been encountering the Silence. This is meant to be an hour-long story in real time, and it's just under an hour long to listen, but we're meant to believe that all of these other things keep happening. The time frame literally does not make sense. And also the Silence in this story are just really boring. They've kind of lost their chilling voice from the TV series for a much more generic, ominous low boom. They're boring. Their plan to wipe out these 2 sides doesn't really make any sense. I don't even know why they did it. Apparently it's to lure in the Doctor, but there are literally 1,000,001 other ways they could have done that. The Trebleach, the wolves, are meant to have this howl that is able to reverberate across the entire planet, but the way that that's utilized towards the end of the story just did not feel like a satisfying ending. The wolves who Doom allies herself with over the course of the story are just your stock generic archetype who shout out loud what they're feeling, what emotions they're feeling, instead of letting the story do the work. And there's also an awful lot of, I'm going to describe everything that I'm doing in meticulous detail because this is the audio medium, and And yes, sometimes that's required, but for this story, The Howling Wolves of Zampir, it kinda takes the mick. I will say though, the main redeeming quality of The Howling Wolves of Zampir, and a constantly good aspect over the course of the box set, is the relationship between Doom and the Lesser Order of Oberon's secretary, Terry, played by Becky Wright.
Terry?
What, Doom? Calling to check who you are?
Funny. My mission is faltering because here I am, stuck in the middle of a flipping war.
Not my problem, and the war isn't your problem either.
And I can't access my monocle's image bank.
Also, not my problem.
Terry? Ugh.
Oh, Doom. Not feeling so good, huh?
I'm dying, Terry. Death is on my heels.
Oh dear, how sad. Never mind. You have Charlotte's location. Kill him.
Terry! I think the silence are manipulating events here. Struth, the dirty great silent might be looming toward me right now for all I know.
This is what the silence do, Doom. What were you expecting?
Please, Terry!
Must go. Office supplies meeting at 3. Bye.
Terry!
Even from the opening chapter on the Doctor Who website, I loved Terry. She was an absolute riot. In this box set, Becky Wright seems to be channeling Annie Potts from Ghostbusters, the sort of nasally Bronx receptionist of the Ghostbusters. And that dynamic over the course of this box set is continuously funny. There's rarely a scene where Doom and Terry interact with each other over the communications that I wasn't laughing. And I think The Howling Wolves of Zampir gives them some of their best interactions, but the story surrounding it was really weak in my opinion. Generic villains, generic heroes, really vague interpersonal stakes. This wasn't really good. But the box set does end on a strong note. We've got The Crowd by Lizzie Hopley, and as you can see from the cover here, Doom does in fact encounter a version of the Doctor. We've got Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, joined by India Fisher as Charlie Pollard. I've got to admit, this is a 8th Doctor TARDIS team that I am not really that well acquainted with. I've only listened to a handful of Paul McGann and India Fisher stories, so I can't really comment on that. But I did really like Paul McGann in this story. He's got a great back and forth with Doom, this assassin who stinks of death, not just because death is literally chasing her. And because this is Doom's final hour before death is going to claim her, there's a bit of a back and forth as to whether or not the Doctor is actually going to help her, because this is not the incarnation of the Doctor that Doom needs to meet. Over the course of all of the stories, she's met the 13th Doctor, she's met the 9th, the 2nd, the 6th, and a few more, but she's been hunting for a specific incarnation. The 8th Doctor is not it, but she needs to try and be in his good books in order to save her own skin. But that's difficult because the target that she has to take down is a species called the Crowd. And unlike the prior Doomsday stories, she's not taking out one target, she's taking out a collective. The Crowd are like 20 people in this time period. She's in medieval England, and the Crowd are this really fascinating concept that I'd love to see return to Big Finish or even the TV show proper. This collective species that travels to devastating events in human history and sort of absorbs the grief, it absorbs the death of it, and that's what fuels them. There's some really cool concepts, like they say if you look at photos of the Titanic or if you look at photos of other massive tragedies and you see the blurry faces in the crowd, that's the Crowd. And now that they're running out of devastating parts of Earth's history to feed from, they're starting to engineer their own, and the Doctor is trying to engineer a peaceful solution to stop them, but Doom is an assassin, and because she has to take down like nearly 20 of them over the course of the story, it means that she can actually take out multiple targets in front of a disapproving Doctor.
Where exactly?
He was on the back of that horse. Hang on. They don't, come back to life, do they?
You killed him?
No, they do not come back to life.
Phew, because that would be a right pain.
I don't like you. I don't like the way you talk. I don't like what you are.
Well, that's fine, because you're not the Doctor I'm after.
Oh, whichever one of me you're after won't like you either, trust me.
Maybe the Crowd haven't gone. If the others collected the body...
They still have to do what they came for.
Which is what? Old Archie Bish is dead.
But I am still alive. This was a trap, remember? And then there's you, who they seem to have taken an interest in.
Well, I can't hang around, sorry.
Oh, don't let us keep you.
Would it help if I showed you some toys I took from our shabby little friend?
Temporal stuff. And scroll? Why didn't you say?
Scroll?
Get these out of sight, now.
We can go to the barn. It's quieter, private.
Quickly.
I really caught you two on an off day, didn't I?
And towards the end, I think that Suze Kempner really delivered in terms of the desperation that she's going through. She is so close to meeting her fate, but she is also so close to the Doctor that she needs to meet, and that desperation really comes through. I think Suze Kempner is great over the entirety of the box set, but it's in The Crowd where, as a performer, she really stands out. Now, I do wish that as part of the transmedia experience, and like I said, this is the penultimate story in Doomsday, that maybe they played up the idea of Doom being tired, Doom just having it up to here with all of this shit. When was the last time she slept? I've no idea. The only chapter of Doomsday that I've not gone through so far is Extraction Point, the novel, so maybe she has a little nap here. But if she doesn't, she has gone nearly 24 hours without rest, and surely that could have been implemented over the course of this story. That's not Big Finish's fault, but I think because they are the penultimate chapter, they could have leaned into that way more. Maybe they could have made the Howling Wolves of Zampier a much more interesting story by having Doom just not remotely caring, not remotely being invested in this conflict because she has 2 hours left before death is going to claim her, and she just wants to get out of here. And they could even lampshade the idea of, in this context, the Silence not being a very good threat for her because they're just mildly inconveniencing her. They are stopping her from getting to the Doctor. They are stopping her from invading death, and she is just above it all. That would have been a really interesting way to take that story, but unfortunately, they don't really do that. I'm going to give my thoughts overall as to what I think of Doomsday as a collective transmedia experience later down the line, but I do think that Dying Hours is one of the stronger chapters of it. I did like the BBC audiobooks. Like I said, I've not read Extraction Point. The comics were a fun and breezy read as well, but in terms of a 24-hour story, I'm going to read Extraction Point, and then I'm going to go through Out of Time, Doom's final hour, which is the last chapter, which is available to read on the official Doctor Who website. But as a box set overall, if you're not following Doomsday's story, it's a bit tough to recommend. Like I said, there are some highlights. A Date with Destiny and The Crowd are really good, but this is quite expensive for a character who is ostensibly a side character in the Doctor Who universe. No disrespect to Doom or Suze Kempner or the concept, but that's just the idea here. However, if you are following Doomsday, I do think that this is worth picking up, that this is a solid final chapter. It's not quite living up to the full potential of the premise, and unfortunately these aren't back-to-back bangers, but this is a solid and enjoyable box set with a really strong set of cast members. I think all of the actors do a really great job here. But yeah, if you want my thoughts on Doomsday as a collective story, I'm going to do that later on down the line. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to keep up to date with that. What did you folks think of Doomsday Dying Hours? Did you pick it up? Are you following the story? Let me know down below. I'll see you folks next time.